Welcome to Slow Home Studio. Too many people live in badly designed houses, and we want to change that.
Today is Wednesday, June 29th, and we're going to be carrying on our discussion that started on Monday when we looked at a project renovation by Altius in Toronto. And we had a lot of people comment on both the Slow Home website and Facebook. Mixed review for the exterior elevation. I think most people were pleased with the work that the architects did on the interior in terms of lightening it up and updating it, but there was a lot of commentary about the outside.
That's right. So we thought that we should delve into this project a little bit more, not really try and resolve the debate, but really just to provide a little bit more information and some context so that we can have a bit more informed discussion on the website. So here we have the before and the after. What's interesting, we've learned, and one of our viewers had gone into the Altius website a little further and posted that it was actually a masonry construction. So it's a heavy masonry construction, and the architects kept that because they wanted to use that as a heat sink for passive solar design. And then because it had some water problems and issues, which we found out from the architect, it needed to be reclad. And so they decided to put a new exterior envelope on the outside to be able to improve the performance.
Yeah, this is a post-war house, so really it outlived its service life. Something needed to be done to it. It either needed a remodel or it needs something to allow it to continue on for years to come.
Right, so now we'll talk about what they did. And there was also a comment, a specific question to me from B. Waters about, why is this a modest renovation? I'm going to show you why I think it's a modest renovation. So here we have the existing elevation with the heavy masonry. I want you to pay particular attention to the openings because that's important. These openings are maintained on the front of the house.
Through that stone wall, right?
Through the stone wall, and they didn't really, I don't believe that they actually changed that. That's the back of the house. This is the new. And so you can see that they've got the same, reads to me as being the same openings through that. So the stone wall is still there, it's just been reclad. Now we can have a debate about the sufficiency of that, but it has been reclad. One of the things that I think is critical in this is the difference between this drawing and the real life house is that line. And to me, that line makes a difference. And as an architect, you put that line in there and it starts to separate and create that as a zone. This is a zone. These windows don't float in the same way that they appear to in the original house.
Yeah, it's an ordnance detail, and I think a lot of houses of this era had ordinances in them that sort of divided the two parts, the entry portion of the house with the upper floor windows. The other thing that's really important is that you don't register the pitch of the roof in the photograph when you're standing on the sidewalk looking up. So the initial reaction to the photograph is that it's a flat-roofed house and it's kind of hovering over you, and that the architects have somehow changed that and changed, therefore, the context of the neighborhood. But as we look at the drawings in more detail, we realize that the changes actually are modest.
That's right, and this is the point about the modest. They kept the existing house. They kept the structure, they kept the walls, they kept the openings, and then they added on this piece. So it gets obviously much more contemporary in the back. I'm going to argue maybe a little bit more successful, but it does it in a way that allows the original building to maintain itself. Now, should it have been kept as stone? Technically, that wasn't really possible. So I think that there's some argument there. Here we've got the side elevation.
Again, interesting. You can see the scale of the front entry addition is really limited to almost a porch-like or a bay window condition. The side roof with the little mini slope, and then the higher pitch slope is maintained. And when you look at it from the other side, you can see that they've got that upper block and then these floor-to-ceiling windows, which we remember were in the kitchen. Here's that line, that ordnance line that wraps the corner to grab that upper floor window, and that's not really registerable.
No, and let's just go back to that original elevation there. It's just a stucco reveal right there, and it's not visible. But if there had been a change in plane, perhaps a change in material, that would have done a lot for me in terms of my understanding of this, because right now I think these are maybe a little bit, they float a little bit too much.
And I think that what you said about the change in material is critical, because I think that if the material between the windows here had been differentiated from the dark gray stucco, you wouldn't have read it as easily as being one plane that went all the way up.
So an interesting discussion on the site. We normally don't talk about style. It's not really something that's part of the Slow Home Studio. I think appropriateness is, and I respect the comments about the street and the neighborhood and whether this is really appropriate. I do want to talk, though, about that. I think that it is a good example of stewardship. It is environmentally sustainable to maintain this house, and I think that it was a relatively modest proposition as opposed to taking this house down and replacing it with some McMansion overall. So weigh in, let us know what you think about this latest development in this saga, and if the story carries on, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. If you're interested in learning more about the principles of slow home design, you can pick up a copy of our book entitled What's Wrong with This House? It's a practical guide to finding a well-designed and sustainable home. It's available for sale on the Slow Home Studio website. It's also available for sale at Amazon.com in both paperback and the Kindle format.